Welcome to me, where suspenseful, thrilling, and mysterious stories will draw you into a world where the lines between reality and fantasy seem to blur. When the night falls, when all the sounds gradually quiet down, leaving only your own heartbeat and breathing, that's when these stories begin. Tensions, unsolved mysteries, moments that will make you hold your breath in fear or curiosity, all are waiting for you ahead. Find a comfortable seat, dim the lights, and let this sound guide you on a journey that is not for the faint of heart. I want each of you to leave a comment sharing where you are in the world. And if you are enjoying the episodes, don't forget to give a like and subscribe to the channel now. Relax. Are you ready? If so, join me in the first story right now. Storm of Duality. Not again. Not so soon. Margaret's whisper carried over the silence of the house. With a fierce grip, she bit her remaining fingernail, tearing a piece off and causing the skin to bleed. Margaret stood at the window as the sky brooded, thick with the weight of an impending storm. Dark clouds churned in slow agony, twisting and folding over themselves as if writhing in torment. This storm, she knew, would continue for days. Long, agonizing days. A sharp gust of wind rattled the glass, and she flinched. The leaves outside skittered like restless spirits, whispering secrets she didn't want to hear. The first patter of rain kissed the roof, soft, almost deceivingly gentle. She, however, saw through the deception. Soon, the downpour would come, the sky would open, and the world would drown in its sorrow. She pressed a trembling hand to her forehead. It was happening again. The slow, creeping descent. The shift within herself that she feared most. Margaret felt strangely linked to the storm. A tether that bound her to its fury, its anguish. As the clouds thickened and the thunder rumbled low in the distance, something inside her twisted. The familiar chasm in her mind yawned open, and she felt herself slipping into it. Her childhood marked her first awareness of this connection. A violent thunderstorm had raged outside, and she had found herself gripped with a restless, frantic energy. It was as though the storm had crawled inside her and filled her veins with its electric charge. Her mother had found her hours later, curled in a corner, whispering to herself. "It's not me," she had murmured over and over. "It's not me." Adulthood brought no change to that feeling. The storm, the darkness, the shifting inside her. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's how it felt. Two selves coexisting in fragile balance until the storm tipped the scale. A peal of thunder cracked across the sky, and she clenched her hands into fists. The rain was coming harder now, sheets of it hammering against the house with merciless force. The wind howled, shaking the trees, their skeletal branches clawing at the sky. As she moved from the window, the walls felt like they were closing in, the shadows distorting her sense of reality. She reached for the kettle with unsteady hands, trying to focus on something tangible, something real. But her fingers fumbled, and the kettle clattered to the floor with a deafening crash. Margaret gawped, stumbling back and slamming into the counter. The impact sent a jolt through her body, but it was nothing compared to the dread twisting inside her. The storm's grip extended beyond the world outside. It clawed at her very mind, unraveling her sanity, thread by thread. She could feel herself fracturing, her thoughts splintering under the immense pressure, as if something dark and insidious lurked just beneath the surface, waiting for the perfect moment to take control. The whispering started then, not from outside, not from the wind, but from within her own head. Just surrender. It will be easier. She squeezed her eyes shut, rocking her head. No, why fight it? You know this is who you are. She pressed her hands to her temples. Her breathing was increasing, like the thunder and lightning. Her ears were buzzing, overpowering the storm itself. Margaret sensed her body was detaching from itself, like her reality was crumbling to the floor. It was the storm inside her, the darkness waiting to consume her. Another crack of thunder split the sky, and a bolt of lightning illuminated the house in a stark, white flash. Margaret reconnected with her body again and felt the surge through her veins, like she poked a fork in a light socket. She glimpsed at herself in the kettle's reflection. Her dilated eyes, the size of marbles, and her pale, almost unrecognizable face stared back at her. Then she realized the storm had taken her. She staggered backward, her hands clutching at the edge of the counter. She needed to hold on, to ground herself. She didn't want to become that person. Darkness prompted unthinkable actions. It whispered to her, feeding her fears, twisting her thoughts until right and wrong blurred together. It promised relief, power, and escape from the suffocating weight of reality. But she knew the cost. She had seen it before, felt it claw at her mind, urging her to surrender. Her fingers gripped the counter tighter, nails biting into the surface. She had to resist. She fought despite the overwhelming urge to give up. Letting go felt incredibly tempting. To release pent-up emotion, to embody the storm's will. She could feel the power coiling in her chest, raw and untamed. Another roar of thunder, another crash of rain. The wind shrieked, rattling the windows as she thought they might shatter. Margaret let out a strangled sob. Please, stop. But storms don't listen. Their anger is unrestrained, and they destroy. Tears burned fiery trails down her cheeks. She staggered forward, pressing her forehead to the cool glass of the window. The rain distorted the world outside, turning everything into an indistinct blur. Just like her mind, she had to hold on. She had to be strong and fight. With a trembling breath, she forced herself to move, to step away from the window. She grabbed the kettle from the floor and set it back on the stove, the simple motion anchoring her. She filled it with water, her fingers still shaking, but moving with purpose. The dizziness was overpowering her, while vibrations pulsate at her temples, and brief electrical shakes interrupted her thought process. She would endure the storm, both outside and within. But what awaited on the other side? Would she emerge unscathed? Or would the tempest leave its mark, reshaping her in ways she could never undo? Having put the kettle back on the counter, Margaret closed her eyes and breathed deeply. She made her way to the special place, the soundproof area, with images of forests, waterfalls, and seascape. She made sure it was stocked with water, nuts, and protein bars. This served as her refuge, untouched by inner or outer turmoil. Here, seemingly serene, she escaped chaos. Briefly rediscovering herself, Margaret cast a final glance at the furious storm, its howls clawing at the windows like a desperate specter. As she forced the door shut, the latch clicked into place, a thin barrier between her and the chaos beyond. Yet, just before the silence settled, the storm's final utterance slithered through the cracks, a venomous whisper threading into her mind. "You can never escape me. I'll always be with you." A tremor ran down her spine, but she clenched her fists, grounding herself. The storm could rage, it could scream, but she refused to let it claim her. Not tonight, and for tonight, that was enough. Burn the house. Down. Did you hear what happened to the old house on Birch Street? No? What? It burned down. Burned down? How? Nobody knows for sure. People are saying it was arson. Arson? That place was empty for years. Who would bother? That's what everyone's asking. But there were lights on the night before. Lights? You're serious? As a heart attack. I saw it myself. You were there? Well, I was passing by, took a shortcut through the park, and you didn't think to tell anyone. I didn't think it mattered. Thought maybe the city finally sent someone to clear it out. The city? They don't even fix the street lights. Why would they bother with that house? You're probably right. But who else would be in there? Kids, maybe? You know, messing around. That's what I thought at first. But what? I saw someone. Someone? Yes, a man. Or at least, I think it was a man. You think? What does that mean? It was dark, okay? I couldn't see clearly. But there was someone moving around inside. Did they see you? No. At least, I don't think so. I kept my distance. What were they doing? It looked like they were carrying something. A bag, maybe. A bag? Like a duffel bag? Could have been. Hard to tell from where I was. And then they disappeared. Into the back of the house. That's weird. You didn't hear anything? No. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. Did you notice anything else? There was a smell. A smell? Like gasoline. Gasoline? Are you kidding me? No, I swear. I didn't think much of it at the time. How could you not? Gasoline in an old house? That's a red flag. I know that now, okay? But at the time, I just thought it was, I don't know, maybe they were fixing something. Fixing something? In that house? I wasn't thinking clearly. So what did you do after that? I kept walking. You just left? Yeah, and you didn't tell anyone? Who was I supposed to tell? The cops? They wouldn't believe me. Maybe they would have, after it burned down. Look, I didn't know it was gonna burn down. Still, this is bad. I know it is. That's why I've been freaking out. Does anyone else know you were there? No? Not yet, anyway. You sure about that? Yeah. What if someone saw you? Nobody saw me. You can't be certain. I'm telling you, I was careful. But if they find out, they won't. You're awfully confident for someone who's in the middle of this mess. What mess? I didn't do anything. You were there. That's enough to make it messy. So what are you saying? I'm saying you better figure out what you're gonna do if someone starts asking questions. Like who? The cops, for starters. Why would they come to me? I don't know. Maybe they've got cameras or something. Cameras? At that old place? Or nearby? Someone could have seen you. You're just trying to scare me. No. I'm trying to make you think. I am thinking. And I think you're overreacting. Am I? Yeah. Nobody cares about me walking past some abandoned house. Maybe. But what if they find out about the gasoline? What about it? I didn't put it there. Doesn't matter. You were there, you smelled it, and you didn't report it. So what? Is that a crime? Maybe not, but it sure makes you look bad. This is insane. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not saying you did. I'm just saying you're connected now. Connected how? By walking through the park? By seeing something? Fine. Let's say the cops come. What am I supposed to tell them? The truth. The truth? Yeah. You walked by, saw lights, smelled gasoline, and kept going. And And you think that's gonna make me look less suspicious? Better than lying? I don't know. This feels all wrong. What's your alternative? I don't know. Maybe just keep quiet? Bad idea. Why? Because secrets have a way of coming out. You don't understand. If I say something, they might think I was involved. Not saying anything makes you look more involved. This is a nightmare. It's not that bad. Not that bad? You just said, I'm connected to a house that burned down. Look, you're not the one who set it on fire, but they don't know that. Then make them know. How? By being honest. Honest? With cops? That's a joke. You got a better plan? No. Then maybe stop freaking out and just deal with it. Easy for you to say. You weren't there. And I'm trying to keep you from making it worse. Fine. Let's say I tell them. Then what? Then you answer their questions and move on. Just like that? Yeah. You don't think they'll dig deeper? Into what? You didn't do anything. I don't know. What if there's more to this? Like what? Like, what if that guy I saw was the one who started the fire? Then it's even more important that you say something. You're not getting it. What if he saw me? Okay. Let's think this through. There's nothing to think about. If he saw me, I'm screwed. Not necessarily. How do you figure? He doesn't know who you are. What if he does? How? Did you talk to him? No. Then relax. Relax? Are you serious? Yes. You're overthinking this. Overthinking? Someone torched a house, and I was there. You weren't in the house. But I saw him, and he didn't see you. You don't know that? If he did, don't you think he would have come after you? Maybe. Or maybe he's waiting. For what? I don't know. To make sure I don't talk. You're spiraling. Am I? What if this guy's dangerous? He might be. All the more reason to go to the cops. I can't. Why not? Because if I talk, and he finds out, you're making this bigger than it is. Am I? Yeah. I don't think you get how serious this is. I do. And that's why you need to stop hiding. I can't. You can. No, I can't. What if... Stop. Listen to yourself. What? You're working yourself up over nothing. Nothing? Yeah. You think this is nothing? Compared to what it could be? Yeah. What does that mean? It means you're not the one who burned the house down. And that's all that matters. I wish I could believe that. You should. I don't know. Then figure it out fast, because this isn't going away. What do you mean? Sooner or later, someone's gonna come knocking. And when they do, be ready. I hope you're right. I am. You better be. I am. The Wrath of La Vipera. Nera. How long has it been? Ale's mouth was dry, but sweat dampened his lips. 47 minutes, a voice replied. Closing his eyes, Ale drew in as much breath as his lungs would allow, then let it out in a deep sigh. 47 minutes. It felt like hours. There was no clock on the wall, no sunlight in the windows, no way for him to gauge how long he'd been captive. He would just have to keep asking. He sat in a steel chair, his hands tied behind his back. The room around him was pitch dark, and though impossible, it seemed to be growing even darker. It would still be light outside. He'd been taken just before he was to meet his wife for dinner. But to him, it felt like night. The thought of his wife sent a sharp jolt of worry down his spine. Would she do as expected and try to rescue him? He could hope not, but that hope would be irrational. She would come for him. She was the reason he'd been taken in the first place. The only ounce of hope that remained was the certainty he had that she would not make rash decisions. She would plan. She would prepare. She wouldn't let her emotions fog her judgment. At least, he was pretty sure she wouldn't. He tried to use his brain. He tried to gather as much information as he could, but the room seemed to muddle his senses. The air was thin, hot, and smelled of dust. An attic? No, the floor was cool, hard, concrete. It felt small enough that had they not been tied, he could reach out his arms and touch both walls. But whoever spoke to him certainly was further than that. Their voice didn't bounce off the concrete floor. It didn't reverberate off any walls, but he could tell which direction it came from. They weren't close enough that he could sense them near him, but the room felt far too small for them to be more than an arm's length away. He would have to rely on something else. What could he remember? He had just left the house. His head was down, and he was fiddling with his car keys. He didn't see them coming. He was suddenly flung forward, having been shoved from behind with the force of a linebacker. He braced to hit the ground, but had been caught by two more pairs of hands. One, calloused and rough, covered his mouth as another threw something around the top of his head. It was soft. A blanket? A sweatshirt? Something that could be tied. He had kicked wildly, tried to pry the hand from his face, tried to scratch, tried to bite, but it made no difference. His heart was pounding in his ears, but he heard a car approach. Fear forced his muscles to tighten to the point of pain. He tasted the coppery, metallic taste of blood, but it was from his own cheek, caught in the clenching of his jaw. The sound of a car door sliding broke through the fullness in his ears. A van. He felt his feet lift off the ground, a pain stabbing under his arms where he'd been held. He came down hard on the floor of the vehicle, his face feeling cold where the hand had lost its grip. A scream grew in his throat, but hardly made it out of his mouth before he was harshly grabbed again, the hand returning to his lips. The door slid closed, and he felt the vehicle lurch forward. His hands, sweaty and shaking, were pulled behind him and tied together. Someone spoke from the front of the van, firm and demanding. "Don't hurt him unless you have to. The less damage we do, the better." That should have been reassuring, but he knew he wasn't the target. His wife had made enemies. It was inevitable in her line of work, and he knew the danger. Years with no incidents had given him a false sense of security. He should have taken the time to prepared. A self-defense class or two might have done him some good, or learning to shoot a gun. It wasn't for his wife's lack of insistence. He just kept putting it off. And now it was too late. Surely she had prepared, right? Surely she wouldn't fall for a trap like this. She was clever. He had faith in that. He didn't know how long they'd driven, not for sure, but it was long enough for the hand on his mouth to relax, and for him to know that yelling wouldn't help him. When the van stopped, he'd been pulled out of it and carried through a heavy door he remembered hearing slam. He heard the sound of heavy footsteps on stairs and the echoes that followed. A stairwell, then. He struggled to focus, the shoulder of one of his captors digging uncomfortably into his gut. He tried to shift himself to sit more comfortably, but he found he was held too tightly. There was the sound of unintelligible whispers, another heavy door, and moments later he was lowered to his feet and pushed down onto a hard metal chair. Alessandro Fochetta. It wasn't said as a question. They knew who he was. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction of a response. Your wife, La Vipera Nera. How much do you suppose you're worth to her? He couldn't fight them off. He knew that the second they'd assaulted him, but he could keep his mouth shut. He heard his interrogator tap impatiently on something. A table? I'm sure it's hard to place value on things when you're the most successful thief in Los Angeles. Money doesn't mean the same thing to you as it does to everyone else, does it? Silence. Again. Al was sure he'd make it out of this. And if his wife did too, She'd surely have something to say about being called the most successful thief in LA. Successful? Without a doubt. Thief? She'd fume at the label. He found it hard not to laugh aloud at the thought. They were right. Money didn't mean the same thing to them. It meant something far different 15 years earlier, when the two of them survived off bread, peanut butter, 69 boxes of dried pasta, and canned tuna. But now? Did money mean anything at all anymore? It doesn't matter. Once she sends us $20,000, you're free to go. Al felt a smile form on his lips. He tried to swallow the laugh that was threatening to burst from him, but it came out anyway. He heard a clatter, something thrown to the floor. Anger laced his interrogator's voice. What the fuck is so funny? Ale sucked in his lips, trying to stifle his laughter. 20,000. So you've gone and pissed off La Vipera Nera for $20,000? He fought another wave of laughter, reminding himself where he was. He didn't know these people. They could still kill her. There were plenty of people who'd pay more than $20,000 for her head. You could have asked her for $20,000. She might have wondered what for. But she knows what it's like to be desperate for money. It's what had gotten her into the business she was in, after all. Instead, you decided to kidnap her husband and hold him for ransom. No, I don't think she'll give you the money, even if you really were just going to let me go. I think she's going to kill you. He felt a rush of cool air as the man stood. You better hope she makes this easy for all of us. And with that, he was gone. Ale leaned back, feeling the cool steel of the chair through his shirt. It felt nice. Wherever they had him, they hadn't bothered to turn on any air. He wondered what plan his wife would cook up, and let himself imagine it for a few minutes. The silence was broken by footsteps on the hard floor, and he felt someone lean over him. His breath quickened, but he forced it to slow. Their hand gripped the cloth at his head, and he felt a rush of cooler air against his forehead as it was removed. He opened his eyes, expecting to take in a view of the room, but it was complete darkness. He didn't hear the person retreat, but he no longer felt them next to him. How long has it been? He was suddenly aware of how dry his mouth was. Half hour, a voice answered. It wasn't his interrogator. It was too shaky, too unsure. He sounded young. Someone roped into a task that was way over his head. Ale almost felt sorry for him. He didn't know how long his wife would take. Part of him hoped it wouldn't take long at all. But part of him knew that the longer it took, the more solid her plan would be. In the meantime, the room seemed to suffocate him. Sweat beaded on his face. He could feel it slide down his neck. He hoped he'd be conscious when she finally did come, He felt as if he was swaying, but in the darkness, he couldn't quite tell. How long has it been? 47 minutes. It had to be close to an hour now. He would have to prepare himself for hours longer. He wished he had a drink. Suddenly, a wedge of light illuminated the room as a door swung open. Al turned away, unaccustomed to the brightness. Through squinted eyes, he took in what he could of the room. The walls were covered with foam squares to dampen the sound. The only furniture was the chair where he sat, and an office chair that sat parallel to him. He could see someone standing in the corner, still bathed in darkness. The person who'd been keeping track of time. How had he done so? In the dark? There hadn't been the light of a phone, at least that Al had noticed. A frantic boy entered, his face pale and drenched in sweat. Cut his hands free. We need him. She's here. She's inside. He looked over his shoulder as if expecting her to jump out at him. The man in the corner was clearly shaken by the words, jumping forward to cut the tie at Alay's hands. Inside. How did she get inside? Darwin was guarding the... She shot him. She didn't even say anything. She just came out of nowhere, shot him, and forced her way in. He sounded as if he was fighting back tears. Al wasn't the vengeful type, and under most circumstances, neither was his wife. He'd be lying if he said he didn't feel at least a little bad. So what are we going to do? Give him to her. That's what she's here for, isn't it? Ayla felt their fear, though he wasn't sure why. He had been them, or at least similar to them. He had been a terrified 20-year-old, not sure where his next meal would come from, not sure what he would have to do to make rent. These two certainly didn't seem the masterminds behind this plan, regardless. No, that was the man who'd interrogated him. A man old enough to know better. A man arrogant enough to think he could kidnap Alessandro Fochetta and live to tell the tale, and with an extra $20,000 in his pocket. The man who was in here before. The one who asked me questions. Who is he? They froze, or as near to freezing as they could get while still shaking. His name! I need his name! There was more force behind his words now. They shifted uncomfortably on their feet. Leon Metzger, Ailey nodded. With the door open, he could hear someone yelling, and the crack of a gunshot. I can find my way from here. He left the room, closing the door behind him. Sparing them could be dangerous, but killing them would be senseless. Metzger was the one he wanted. Plus, he could easily give them $10,000, and he was sure they'd do whatever he asked. He could remember when 10,000 seemed life-changing. The hallway outside the door was like that of a parking garage, only narrower. It was concrete on the walls and floor, with large, orange-tinted lights along the ceiling. He went toward the commotion. This wasn't a massive operation. Half a dozen men at most. And 2 of them were in the room he just left. How many stood between him and his wife? He broke into a run, hoping the next person he ran into would be her. Another gunshot rang out, the sound bouncing its way down the halls. He was close. He turned a corner to see his knight in black, bulletproof armor, a seething glower on her face. Her expression immediately brightened as she hastened to him. "Are you all right? Are you hurt?" She looked him over, seeming afraid to touch him in case he was injured. I'm fine. I'm assuming you are too." He poked playfully at the bulky vest she wore. She nodded, but her face grew serious again. "How many were there?" She started down the hallway, 4 at most. He would tell her the truth when she didn't have a gun in her hand, and she wasn't searching for men to kill. "Leon Metzger, he's the one in charge. I've taken down 3, so that leaves Mr. Metzger. He wouldn't charge at the woman with a gun. So where is he hiding?" Metzger didn't give them the chance to wonder. He appeared down the hall as if on cue, turning and confidently leaning against the wall. There she is, the famed Black Viper herself. "You really are as fearsome as they say, aren't you?" "Honestly, I didn't." Another gunshot, then another, and another. Metzger crumpled to the floor like a thrown rag doll. All heard his wife sigh heavily. From relief, he was sure. She turned to face him, taking him into a strong embrace. The Velcro of her vest scratched at his face, but he didn't care. He was safe. She was a criminal. She drew attention and danger, but so long as she was there, he knew he was safe. She pulled back, tucking the gun against her back in the waistband of her pants. "Are you sure you're all right?" She moved her hands along his arms and chest, as if checking him over. "I'm okay, really." He held a hand to his stomach. "I'm kind of hungry, though. Starving, actually." She laughed, wrapping an arm around him and leading him towards the exit. She paid the lifeless bodies no mind as they walked past, and all did the same. "We still have enough time to get to our dinner reservations," she said cheerfully as he pulled open the door for her. "Actually, I'm really craving pasta. The dried pasta we used to get, with the jarred sauce from the dollar store." She gave him a questioning look, but only for a moment. Yeah, that sounds perfect." Hail Mary. The man lay prone on the edge of thick woods, sighting down the scope of a 30-06 hunting rifle. Snow flurries melted on the back of his neck. For an unknown reason, and mixed with the smell of pine and gun oil, the phrase "veil of an endless winter" entered his mind. He shook his head. Poetry is the vice of fools, he scoffed. Through the compressed distance, the telescopic lens thickened the falling snow, proving the chalk house a quarter-kilometer away, a miraged dream. A woman came out on the porch, centered in the crosshairs. As if something caught her attention, she glanced quickly in the man's direction. She studied the woods for a long time. They stared back at one another, she in the glass from opposing distance, he a foreign and ominous presence. He stripped off his camouflage clothing, his muscles taut. After switching out to jeans, a black polar tech, and civilian hiking boots, he broke down the rifle, then wrapped the sections carefully in white cloth. He stuffed the bundle into his knapsack. Before he tied up the pack, he pulled out a clear plastic sleeve containing a yellowed file. Within it, he flipped through multiple pages, stopping at an aged copy of a driver's license. The photo, a man with long white hair. He tapped the image, his forefinger protruding from a fingerless leather black glove. He then said out loud, "Gotcha, you son of a bitch. Do you have food?" He asked the woman who answered the oak plank door. She was gaunt and scanned over the man's head to the woods. She's beautiful, he thought. Is she 35 or 50? She looked the man over. We can give you food for work, but not long. Okay, what are you? I'm Tavi. No, I mean, what are you? Bannock. I'm Bannock. Did you come from Twin Falls? The reservation. No, no one comes from there anymore. We need you to bury cattle. Can you do that? Yes. Days went by, and the man slept in the barn and spent his time chipping at frozen ground, digging holes, maws in the earth. There were over 50 carcasses in a field, bloated and gray-white. The work didn't bother him. It took his mind off remembering the night the white flash struck the horizon, safely at home, a Netflix series on TV. His wife was reading in a pink robe, his son in his bedroom. His first thought was, why didn't I ever buy a gun? The impact wave struck the house, sweeping it away, as easy as fine cutlery off a table. And as luck would have it, leaving him without a scratch, but alone. Sooner than he could have ever imagined, he was arrested by men coming to his tent in the camps. "You're a terrorist," accused the broken and terrified faces, neighbors he'd hugged at Christmas parties. The only way to prove he wasn't the enemy was learning how to fire a gun, learning how to point a finger at other people, learning how not to feel anything while passing ash-laden bodies, hanging in nooses. How can I live with myself? He'd ask the ghost of his wife. You can't, she'd say. Just come home. Yeah, he cares nothing about us. You're too young to understand, the old woman said to the boy. And why should he care? He'll slit our throats right here in the kitchen. The old woman, her daughter Faith, and the boy were eating dinner. Faith cut ribs, separating the bones by hacking at them with a meat cleaver. The boy's face glistened badly, where on one side his flesh lay in white, scared rivulets. "Just stop," Faith said to her mother. "He's only 12. No one spoke for over a minute, while the old woman stared at Faith cutting the meat. He's scum, you know? Only an Indian would bury livestock for a living." With her elbows spread wide, her pincered teeth darted back and forth, pecking small pieces of flesh. A white bone in her greasy skeleton hands. "What makes you so sure he's trouble? Maybe he's been sent to help us. Now you've got the sickness to think that. I don't imagine we need to worry he'll kill us while we sleep." "Do you think that?" "Really? Damn right I do. That's exactly what he'll do if we're not careful." Faith's mother spit out a piece of pink grizzle. "Your brother will be back soon. He'll tell us what to do." "What's that?" the boy called from the porch. Tavi held a football, flipping it in his hands. He threw the leather ball to the boy, who fumbled and dropped it. "I'm not very good," the boy said. "Sure you are. Pass it to me." Tavi moved away from the porch. The boy was thin and moved like a young man, and Tavi's face grimaced, remembering a day when the sky was blue and fall leaves yellow and red. "I only dream in color," he thought. The boy threw him the ball. "Better. You are good. Now you run out." The boy hesitated, moved off the porch, and jogged out 10 paces. "Throw it, Tavi. Go way back." Tavi held the ball high in a poise, like a statue getting ready to launch the ball. Holding the stance, and with a radio announcer's voice, he said, "Listeners, he's going out for the big play, still 2 points behind. Will the Saints have a last gasp to win the game?" Tavi braced himself. "He's throwing a Hail Mary." The crowd roars. The boy ran well into the yard, and Tavi threw deep, the ball arching through the gray sky. The boy reached his fingers and bobbled the ball, tipping it up into the air. It then fell into his arms. Score! The boy hero wins the game. The boy's smile broke broadly, and he came back to the porch. He handed the ball to Tavi. "There's no more football, but there is. We're the proof, aren't we? I guess. But it's not the same." Tavi put his arm around the boy's neck. He pulled him close. Laughing, the boy hugged Tavi. Tavi winced. He burst out crying. "Just go in the house, will you? Go, damn it!" The boy cowered, his eyes wide. He ran to the house and slammed the screen door. Soon Faith came out, but Tavi was nearly returned to the barn. "Is this what it's come to?" she asked herself. "Am I so desperate I'd let my son be abused by a stranger who barely talks? No. Even with your life stripped away, you still have something. Your son. He is the only pure honesty left. What keeps you alive." She plodded to the barn and then leaned against the barn door. Tavi's shirt was off, and he was pumping water into a bucket. Scars covered his back like lost highways on some map no one used anymore. "You don't yell at my son," Faith said. Tavi glanced up. "I'm sorry." "What's your problem?" "Nothing. That's not enough. If you want to stay, you need to tell me." "It's nothing, okay?" "What? Tell me." Tavi put his shirt back on. "Jason reminds me of my son. It's hard for me, that's all." A minute passed. "I'm sorry, but that's still no reason." "What did you do before the war?" "I worked in a fishery near Stanley. We would spawn salmon and release them into the river." "Why would you do that?" "We would count the few that returned. They traveled hundreds of miles from the ocean to get back. The lake is called Redfish for when my people lived there. The lake was red with the fish." "Do you think there's still fish?" "I don't know, but I'd like to find out." "They say the deer may have returned also. Some elk. Life is still out there. People survived. Just luck in my case, Faith. Bad luck. Maybe something else. I don't believe in anything but luck. But you don't know, do you? Maybe there's something else other than luck." "That sounds like a stretch, Faith. I used to think we're meant to leave something better for those to follow. I don't believe that anymore." "Something better for those to follow?" "We didn't do such a wonderful job, did we? What about you? Is there anywhere you'd like to go?" "I'll stay here. My brother takes care of us. Food, fuel. Without him, we'd be in a camp, I suppose. You'll like him. He'll be here in a few days." Tavi reached out and touched a place on Faith's cheek. He caressed her with his fingers, then reached behind her and braced the back of her neck. He showed no emotion, like stroking a cardboard box, his eyes curious, remembering. Finally, Faith said, "It's been a long time. I've aged. You might not. You don't know who I am, Faith. My advice is to run." They stood facing each other. Then Faith began pulling away. Tavi gently held her neck. Finally, Faith leaned in and grazed Tavi's ear with her lips. "There's a place for you in the house. There's still room, at least for hope, isn't there?" Tavi woke from a dream where he was wearing snowshoes in thick snow over ice. He was breaking trail, and his wife was behind him in a red winter jacket. The sun was bright, and she laughed at something he said. With a grunt, she broke through the ice and then clawed at the edge where the hole had broken through. She soon slipped under. Tavi stripped off his jacket and dove into the hole. As he pulled down with his arms into the ice water, his body felt numb, but he still kicked his legs with everything he had, swimming deeper. At last, the red jacket was just beneath him, his wife reaching to him from below in the pale light. "Swim, damn it! Swim! Grab my hand!" Faith lay next to him in the dawn white of winter. She was shoving his shoulder. There are men on the porch. As Faith and Tavi came downstairs, they saw two men talking to the old woman. One man towered over her. He wore a Kevlar vest and leaned in. We've got him. So this is a simple trade, if you think about it. The old woman held a small pistol in her hand. Jesse, take your boy and get off my property. The younger one moved to go. He wore a vest also, but both the vest and the camouflage clothing didn't fit. More clown-like than threatening, Jesse scowled down at the old woman. You telling us you don't want him? He's my son. You think I don't want him? The man put his hand on the big revolver on his side. You give us what Joe told us you have, or we'll start carving on him. We aren't in high school anymore. The screen door squeaked, and Tavi came out of the house. He stood by the old woman's side. Tavi glanced at the AR-15, auto-fed, that the younger man had slung over his shoulder. It dangled on a lanyard. Jesse glanced at Tavi. Who the hell is this? You get out of here, now, the old woman said. The two men walked away, and Tavi and the old woman went back into the house. They gathered in the living room with the boy and Faith. Why didn't you shoot him, Grandma? Asked the boy. He went to the window and peered through. That's Jesse Rollins. Yes, it is, said the old woman. Now move away from the window. What did they mean by saying they have Joe? Faith asked. The old woman checked the handgun for bullets. A small .22 pistol. They have our Joe, holding him out there. But I'm not giving them anything. It's all we have keeping us from a camp. You can't imagine, Faith, what Joe says is going on. He's family. It's a trade, isn't it? I'm just doing what he'd do to us. He's as dog-eat-dog as I am, and knows how it is. Tavi entered the room, carrying his pack. It was full, his feet heavy on the wood slats. The scoped rifle was strapped in a sling over his shoulder, and he wore camouflaged fatigues. In front of the old woman, he said, I'll be needing your pistol. The old woman grabbed for the gun, but Tavi held her wrist while he twisted it out of her hand. He then tucked it in the rear of his pants. The boy had tears in his eyes. Tavi? Tavi went to the window. He stared for a long time. And then, in a quick motion, he turned over the yellow pine table on its side, dishes shattering, and dragged it to the window. He grabbed a chair, crouched on the seat, and lay the rifle barrel on the edge of the table. Leaning into the scope, the staked-out man 50 yards away came into focus. It had stopped snowing, and the crosshairs remained steady on the man's head, resolute and sharp. The man's hair was long and white. There's your humanity, the old woman screamed at Faith. You see it now, don't you, darling? Tavi lifted the rifle. Jason, come here. He dragged over another chair. I'm going to go out there and draw those men out of the woods. When you see the smaller man come out with the rifle, he intends to kill me. Do you understand that? You shoot him, okay? Don't think about it. Just pull the trigger. Here, place your eye on the scope like this. Do you think you can do it? He passed the rifle to Jason. Yes, sir. Tavi slowly crossed the yard to the edge of the clearing. He approached the man on the ground. The boy crouched at the window. "Come on, come on, come on," he mumbled to himself as he steadied the rifle, bracing the stock with his shoulder. The old woman paced behind him. "You can't shoot, Squat." She shoved Jason and put her hands on the barrel. "Give it to me." Jason pushed her away and sighted again out the window. Tavi came to the man staked down. He was moaning in the gray ash snow, his face bleeding and bruised. Long white hair streamed down his back, matted and wet. Tavi stared down at him and prodded him with his boot. "Do you know who I am?" The man on the snow stared back at Tavi with blank eyes. Tavi reached down and cut him loose, and the man rose and staggered towards the house. Jesse came out of the woods. "What are you doing? Where's our trade, big man?" Tavi stood up. "I'm the trade. Me for him. We'll take you, him, and anything they've got," Jesse said. "Plus, we'll step in where you left off with Faith, you might say." The old woman jostled Jason, tugging on the barrel. "Give me that thing." Again, Jason pushed his grandmother away, jerked the rifle back, his whole body shaking as he crouched behind the scope. He took his eye off the lens to wipe the sweat out of his eyes. "Give me the gun, damn it, boy." The boy thrust his body against the old woman, and she sprawled to the floor. He put his eye to the scope, put the crosshairs on the man, and pulled the trigger. Faith heard the click of the gun, and with the empty sound, her heart thumped. Just once, like her insides were collapsing hard in her chest. Jason dropped the rifle, ran to the door, and then stood on the porch. "Tavi!" His arms flailing, he leaped into the yard. "No, don't!" Faith screamed. "Don't you go!" Jason ran towards Tavi, his legs driving through the snow, white bursting around him, the ash kicking up underneath. The younger man squinted at the lunatic boy, whirlpooling his arms, coming straight at him. A howling apparition from hell, scars red aflame on his face. He lifted the AR-15 to his shoulder and swung the barrel. Tavi grabbed the rifle and threw his back into him, and with both hands, he forced the gun toward Jesse, who screamed as jackhammer bullets stitched across his belly. The younger man was behind Tavi now, and he felt a blade slide into his back, slick and deep, the pain piercing to his spine. He fell away and turned as he hit the ground and reached the pistol behind his back and fired into the young man. Tavi dreamed. The water was deep, a pure crystal blue. He pulled with his arms and kicked as hard as he could to fight, to descend. He tasted salt. And then his wife was there in her red jacket and broad-faced smile, reaching to him from below. The water was warm as he went deeper, so very warm. She stretched to him, her face with such a smile. "Grab my hand," she said, and he did. They began swimming against the current. What lies behind her mirror? Detective Sarah Chen stared at the ornate Victorian mirror, its silver surface reflecting nothing but shadows in the dim light of the abandoned mansion. 3 days, 3 women missing, and all connected to this house. The mirror seemed to mock her with its emptiness. Find anything? Detective Mike Rodriguez's voice echoed from the hallway. Just another dead end, Sarah replied. But something about the mirror kept drawing her attention. The curved floral patterns along its frame seemed to shift in her peripheral vision. But when she looked directly at them, they were perfectly still. The homeowner's alibi checks out, Mike said, entering the room. He was in Tokyo when the first woman disappeared. Sarah traced her fingers along the mirror's frame. What about his wife? That's where it gets interesting. Mike pulled out his notebook. Mrs. Eleanor Wright hasn't been seen in public for 6 months. Neighbors say she became a recluse after their daughter's suicide last year. Sarah's hand froze on the frame. Suicide? That wasn't in the case file, because it wasn't ruled a suicide officially. The daughter, Rebecca Wright, 19, was found in this room, in front of this mirror, with no signs of trauma. Toxicology came back clean. They called it natural causes, but 19-year-olds don't just die of natural causes, Sarah finished. She leaned closer to the mirror, her breath fogging the glass. For a moment, she thought she saw something move behind her reflection, a shadow darker than the others. Here's the part that'll give you chills, Mike continued. Each of our missing women reported seeing someone following them in mirrors before they disappeared. Their therapists all noted it as a shared delusion. Sarah stepped back from the mirror. All 3 saw someone in mirrors, a woman in a black dress, according to their descriptions. They said she would watch them, getting closer each time, but only in reflections, never in real life. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Sarah pulled her jacket tighter. We need to talk to Mrs. Wright. Already tried. The housekeeper says she hasn't left her room in 3 months. Won't see anyone. Won't talk to anyone. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from forensics. Lab results are in on the dust samples from the missing women's homes. Anything useful? Traces of silver nitrate. And Sarah squinted at the screen. Something they can't identify. Some kind of organic compound they've never seen before. A floorboard creaked behind them. Both detectives spun around, but the doorway was empty. When Sarah turned back to the mirror, she caught a glimpse of movement, a flash of black fabric disappearing around the edge of the reflection. Tell me you saw that, she whispered. Mike shook his head. Saw what? Sarah approached the mirror again, her heart pounding. The frame felt cold under her fingers, much colder than it should be. We need to get this mirror to the lab. Sarah, it's just a mirror. We need to focus on finding Mrs. Wright, and 3 women are missing, Mike. all saw someone in mirrors before they vanished. Rebecca Wright dies mysteriously in front of this specific mirror. And now I'm seeing... She stopped, realizing how it would sound. You're seeing something in the mirror, too? Mike's voice carried a note of concern. Maybe you should take a break. You've been working this case non-stop for... A laugh echoed through the room. High, feminine, and definitely not coming from either of them. Mike drew his gun, scanning the shadows. NYPD, show yourself. Sarah couldn't move. In the mirror, a woman in a black Victorian dress stood directly behind her. But when Sarah spun around, there was nothing there. The figure remained in the reflection, smiling. Mike, Sarah's voice shook. Look in the mirror. He turned, and his face went pale. That's not possible. The woman in black raised a finger to her lips, then pointed to something behind them. Against their better judgment, both detectives turned. A door had appeared in the wall, a door that hadn't been there moments ago. It stood slightly ajar, revealing a silver glow beyond. Call for backup, Sarah said, drawing her weapon. Mike already had his phone out. No signal. The woman in the mirror laughed again, the sound seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. When they looked back at the reflection, she was gone. But words had appeared in the fog of Sarah's breath on the glass. Come find us. We need to leave, Mike said, backing toward the room's entrance. Now. But Sarah stood transfixed by the mirror. In its depths, she could now see multiple figures. Women in modern clothing, frozen in poses of terror, their faces familiar from the missing persons reports. And behind them, barely visible, was Rebecca Wright, mouthing two words over and over. Help us. The killer isn't Mrs. Wright, Sarah whispered. It's the mirror. Somehow, it's the mirror. That's impossible. Mirrors don't kidnap people. Mirrors don't kill. 3 months ago, I would have agreed with you. Sarah's fingers found a catch in the mirror's frame, a small lever hidden among the floral patterns. But look at the evidence. The silver nitrate in their homes, the mysterious compound, the shared visions. What if this isn't just a mirror? What if it's a door? A door to where? Sarah pressed the lever. The mirror's surface rippled like water, and through it, they could hear distant screams. I don't know, she answered. But those women are still alive in there, and we're going to get them out. Mike grabbed her arm. Wait. If this is real, if this is actually happening, we need a plan. We need equipment. We need to move now. Sarah cut him off. Look, the ripples in the mirror's surface were spreading to the frame, to the wall around it. The door behind them creaked wider, the silver light growing brighter. It's not just a portal, Sarah realized. It's expanding. If we don't stop it now, it'll take over the whole house, Mike finished. The whole city. Sarah checked her gun, knowing it might be useless against whatever waited on the other side. I'm going in. Call for backup if you get a signal. If I'm not back in 30 minutes, I'm coming with you, Mike said firmly. Partners don't let partners enter interdimensional mirrors alone. Despite everything, Sarah smiled. Ready? Mike nodded. Ready. Together, they stepped through the rippling surface. The last thing they saw in the normal world was their own reflections, distorting and fragmenting as reality bent around them. Then, they were falling through silver light, the screams growing louder. And somewhere ahead, a woman in black was laughing. The mirror stood silent in the empty room, its surface slowly stilling until it once again showed only shadows. But if anyone had looked closely, they might have seen new figures in its depths. A man and woman in police uniforms, running through an endless maze of mirrors, chasing a figure in a black dress who always stayed just out of reach. And on the wall, in elegant Victorian script, new words appeared in the dust. Who will come looking for them? A tear for Mr. Pessbody. Evelyn was a woman in her mid-30s who seemed to have it all. A successful career and a beautiful home. But despite her outward appearance of happiness and contentment, Evelyn was constantly battling demons within herself. From a young age, Evelyn had always been a perfectionist. She excelled in school, graduated top of her class, and landed a high-paying job at a prestigious law firm. But as the years went by, the pressure to maintain her flawless image became overwhelming. She was constantly striving for perfection in every aspect of her life, fearing that any sign of weakness or failure would shatter the facade she had built. One fateful day, in a moment of sheer desperation, Evelyn fled her office and drove aimlessly. The long highway stretched out before her. Evelyn's journey was not without its challenges. The rhythmic hum of the engine and the gentle whir of the tires on the asphalt were the only sounds that accompanied her. She found herself contemplating the choices that had led her to this point. As she drove down the long highway, occasionally she would drift over her lane, and she would hear the honking of a car horn. She would be lost in thought and not paying attention to the road, which is something she never done before. Evelyn was a very good driver. She did not know what was going on. I need to stop this and get my mine back on the road before I kill myself of someone else. Her headlights illuminated the highway, casting long shadows across the landscape. She had been driving all day and well into the night. Her eyes were heavy and burning from the headlights blaring in her eyes. She gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles turning white as she navigated the road ahead. The miles seemed to stretch on endlessly, the road disappearing into the darkness ahead. But she wasn't afraid. She knew she needed to stop soon. The sign up ahead read, "Exit 1 mile." As she exited the highway, she felt a sense of dread. It was not a well-lit road. See let out a sigh of relief as she seen a Waffle House sign lit up. But to get to the Waffle House parking lot, she had to go through an old, abandoned gas station. As she cut through the station, she could see a shadowing figure standing on the corner of the abandoned station. She couldn't take her eyes off the figure. It was as if he was staring right through her. As she pulled into the Waffle House parking lot, she bumped into the curb, which broke her fixation of the figure at the gas station. She exited the car and went inside. It was a drab-looking place. As she looked around, the waitress said she could sit anywhere. Evelyn took a seat near the waitress station. She felt safer there. For some reason, couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. Evelyn tried to rationalize her fears, telling herself that it was just irrational paranoia or stress getting the best of her. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. Evelyn said she would like a cup of coffee. As the waitress was pouring her coffee, curiosity got the best of her, and she couldn't resist asking the waitress about the man. "Who is that man standing over there?" Evelyn inquired, nodding towards the figure outside. The waitress paused for a moment, glancing out the window before turning back to Evelyn with a puzzled expression. "I don't see anyone, dear. Are you sure you're not mistaken?" she replied, furrowing her brow in confusion. Evelyn sat there quietly, drinking her coffee. Evelyn must have fallen asleep. She felt a gentle shaken on her shoulder. She smiled at the waitress, then got up, paid for her coffee, then went to the restroom. She splashed cold water on her face. As she was leaving, Evelyn thanked the waitress and headed to her car, dreading the drive ahead. She was tired. The tiredness in her bones weighed her down, making the thought of sitting behind the wheel seem like a daunting task. As she was getting in the car, Evelyn looked over at the station. She could see the man starting her way. Panic took over, and she hit the gas, sending gravel spraying, ricocheting off the underneath of her car. She flew through the parking lot. The adrenaline pumped through her veins. The stop sign loomed ahead, but she had no intention of slowing down. With a defiant attitude, she pressed down on the gas pedal even harder, the tires squealing in protest as she hit the pavement. As she got onto the interstate, with fear in her eyes, Evelyn keeps looking in her rearview mirror as if the shadowing figure was about to bite her on the behind. Evelyn hadn't noticed that she was going well over 80, her eyes fixated on the rear view. But when she finally got the strength to take her eyes off the rear view, to look at the road ahead, there in front of her was a semi stalled in her lane. With no time to react, Evelyn let out a horrifying, blood-curdling scream. Evelyn's eyes opened, and she jotted up, unaware of where she was. The room was spinning around, and her head hurt. Her boss, Mr. Peabody, was knelling next to her. No, don't move. He was telling her to take it easy, that she had a bad fall and hit her head, and the ambulance was on the way. All of a sudden, Evelyn grabbed his coat with both hands and blurted out it was all a dream. Then her eyes slowly closed and her grip loosened. She became limp. Mr. Peabody carefully lowered her down. The ambulance hadn't made it in time. She was gone, with tears streaming down his face. He bent down and gave her a kiss on her forehead. Then he pulled the blanket up over her head. As he sat there with his heart breaking, regretting that he never told her that he loved her, silent but deadly, the grass waves to the breath-filled song of the wind. No, wait. That doesn't sound quite right. Maybe just the voice of the wind. The luscious grass dances as the wind sings. Something like that anyway. I look around me, casually, like I'm taking in the view, and not at all looking for a sudden change in the landscape that would signal my end. Should I admit that I'm scared? I'd be mad not to. But then this is madness. I'm narrating my life because my life actually depends on it. The moment I go quiet, it'll come for me. I know that much. Sneaky bollocks, tricking people into being quiet when that's how it finds them. I still don't get that. What form of creature finds its prey via silence? I thought it might hate sound, but no one is quiet in their final moments, and it doesn't seem fazed by the screaming. I shouldn't talk about that. Difficult to filter, though. I can't stop the words coming out. The words are my shield. All I have to do is think of things to say as I walk these next few fields, and then I'll be in the next village, and I can find a radio or just something, anything, to make some noise for me. Then I can sleep. I am so tired. Wait a minute. What if I yawn? Does a yawn count? Or will I be interrupting the flow of sound that protects me? I can't fall or hit a limb against anything, nor can I snag myself on an errant nail. Errant. Where did that come from? I've noticed that my language is getting more flowery. That's good. I don't have to find quite so many words. They're flowing out from me, as though the tap in my mind has been turned a little more. I never knew I had a tap in my mind. This'll do. I can manage this. And I need to stay on top of it, conscious of the stream. I don't want to get carried away and pause in a fog of confusion. I could say any old words. I could do that, but I think I'd go mad as I stirred that crazy word salad around. And then where would I be? I need to keep it together. find somewhere to sit it out, surround myself with a wall of sound, and then sleep seems a world away. I'd need someone with me so we could take it in turns to sit watch. Would that work? Would a radio even work? Does it work if the noise isn't coming from you? Does the quality of the sound make a difference? A voice that comes from a mouth is different to one that comes via a speaker. Am I kidding myself? Does it matter that I'm kidding myself? I've made it this far, and that's pretty good. I had safety in numbers for a while back there. It's about survival now. I'm on my own. I've got to keep going. Buy myself time. The creatures might not even be here anymore. Moved on to easier pickings. I don't believe that for a moment. You're still there, aren't you guys? Watching and waiting. All I have to do is pause these words of mine, and you'll be skipping out to meet me in the middle of this damn field. I'd say that you don't see them coming. That's not quite right. It's that when you do see them coming, you're done for. Game over. What little warning you have is useless. A blur of movement. Pain. Gone. You can't outrun what you can't see. They don't move like anything on this earth. There's no approach, no stalking. They come from nowhere, and the more I think about it, I do think they come from some other dimension. They just appear as though they can pass through gaps in space-time that we can't see. Could they be demons? That makes more and more sense to me. Come to snatch our souls away. Consume us. The end of days. No one thought it would look like this, sound like this. Do our voices cover another sound? The beating of our hearts? Or is it really the sound of our silence that beckons them forth? I'm searching for answers where I think there are likely none. That's what we do, though, isn't it? We search for answers. We walk into a room we've never been in before, and we wonder what the hell it all is. Thankfully, rooms have conventions, like bloody walls and a sodding floor and a buggering ceiling, crappy sofas if it's a living room, a shitty cooker, and an arsehole fridge if it's a kitchen, a bastard bed if it's a... What the hell has happened here? It looks the same, but it's entirely different. I loved walking through these fields. Now it's all painted in violent death. Everyone's violent death. My violent death. I don't want to die. Not like this. But what makes me different? What makes me so special that I think I can evade the fate of everyone else? I'd laugh if this wasn't so serious. I don't think I'll ever laugh again. At least it's quick. It seems quick, anyway. Oh, what if they drag you through those invisible gaps? What if the pain goes on beyond what I have seen? Why do my thoughts go there? Think happy thoughts. Why is the bloody happy cupboard bare? I wish we lived by the sea. That would be nice. I wonder whether they can follow you over the water. I hope not. I hope there are places that they can't go. I hope they eventually give up. They won't, though, will they? Would we? Perhaps they're aliens. Or a lab experiment gone wrong. Doesn't matter, though, does it? If my nemesis introduced himself as Norman, shook my hand, and did me the courtesy of telling me what he was, where he came from, and why he and his mates were wreaking violent and bloody murder across the planet, it doesn't change the important bit, does it? I'm not going to smile and tell him that that's all right then. I suppose it would give me the opportunity for a moment of defiance. I could tell Norman, the planet conqueror, to bugger off. You know what? I can do that anyway, can't I? I can shout my defiance at this new world of Normans. I might not have the final word, but I'll have given him what for. Might even feel good, if only for the duration of my shouting. Yeah, I'm going to do it. What have I got to lose? I'm going to lose anyway, so may as well go for it. Tell you what, Norman, I'm going to primal scream it. I'm going to dig deep down and bring my ancient part to the fore. We are animals, after all. A force to be reckoned with. And I don't give a shit if I lose my voice doing it. I will keep talking afterwards in any case. You're not getting me like that, you sneaky little bastard. Here goes. Bugger off, Norman. Yeah. Wow. Hey, what was that? I can still see it. A gap. Norman! I shouted, a gap open. That's why you don't like our voices. Our voices are our power. Oh yes, of course they are. This changes everything. Yes. I'm going to bring it to you, Normie baby. I'm going through that gap of yours, and I'm going to shout your whole house down. What else is there? I can't keep this talk up. You'll get me in the end if I keep running away. But if I bring it to you and shout you down, that might just do it. I'm coming for you, Norm. And we're going to talk it out. Just you and me. Then, when we're done, I'll tell all your friends. I've got hope now, Norman. Hope and a plan. Best of all, I have belief. That makes me dangerous. We're not sheep. We were never sheep. We're not even wolves. We're different, and we're difficult. We're magic, Norman. And my words are a spell you are not going to break. Coming, whether you're ready or not. A tale to tell. Is anyone sitting here? Harriet looked up at the older woman standing at the other end of the bench. No, not that I can see, she responded, thinking to herself, does it look like anyone sitting there? Her day had been hectic, and she desperately wanted to get home. The woman sat down, fussing her fur coat around her and shifting her ample bosom into place. I hear the train to Fauchester is delayed. How bothersome. Yes, it is. I'm not sure what's happening. Harriet glanced at the woman and then resumed her gaze on the departure board as destinations and times flicked updates, all except for the Fauchester line, which still said, departing at 14:10. It was now 20 past 3. I don't know what's happened to our railways. The older woman lifted her chin and adjusted her green cloche hat. It never used to be like this. At least someone would let you know what was going on. I just wish it would hurry up. Harriet glanced at her watch, as if doing so might cause something to happen. It really has disrupted my day. I should have been at a very important appointment in Fauchester with my accountant, you understand. These things are very important. It doesn't do to keep people waiting like this. Really, it doesn't. Harriet glanced at the woman. She was much older than her, in her mid-60s at least. And to Harriet, the talk of accountants, her fur coat, patent leather clasp handbag, and matching shoes left her feeling rather insignificant. I just need to get home. There's so much I need to do. And I've left Freddie with... She paused. Suddenly, her circumstances seemed so trivial in comparison with the rather affluent-looking women she was sharing the bench with. Freddie? You've left him. What have you left him with? If you don't mind me inquiring, of course. We seem to be stuck here, so we might as well have a chat to while away the time. Well, you see, Freddie, he works for me at the office. Oh, I see. And you've had to leave him in charge, have you? What sort of office, if you don't mind me asking? The insurance brokers. You might know it. Harland and Tapsfield on Fountain Street. That much was true. Harriet worked as a part-time typist for the company, juggling her hours there with managing the small terraced house, her young son and Freddie, her husband, who worked night shifts at the steel works. Oh yes, I think I do. Just near the provincial bank? Yes, I know the place. That's right. I'm a manager there. Harriet craned her head to look down the platform, hoping a guard or someone might be able to tell her when the train would be coming. But apart from other waiting people and the odd pigeon, there was no one who could cast any light on the situation. I really wish they'd let us know what's going on, she sighed. Insurance. I never could stand our insurance man. Silly little man with a pork pie hat and a mustache that always had bits of his lunch stuck in it. My husband dealt with all that, of course. Wilfred. Bless his soul. You do seem very young to be in charge at an insurance broker's. Oh, well, you know, I might only be 25, but I'm very good at what I do. I certainly wouldn't have my people going around with lunch stuck in their mustaches. Harriet gave a small smile. I'm Harriet, by the way. Harriet West. Well, I'm pleased to meet you, Harriet West. I'm Dora Barton. You might have heard of me, or perhaps not. You may be of use to me someday if I'm needing to set up any insurance. Not that I should need to mind. My accountant sorts out that kind of thing for me. That must be nice, having someone to look after your affairs like that. It can be quite tiring, my dear, making sure they're doing the right thing. But I expect you know what that's like. Running an insurance, brokers must be dreadfully hard work, especially for a woman. And so young, too. Dora Barton looked Harriet up and down with a steely eye, taking in her slightly scuffed court shoes and raincoat that had seen better days. Her gaze left Harriet feeling rather uncomfortable, and she shuffled in her seat, reaching into her handbag. Actually, I really must make a phone call. Make sure that Freddie, at the office, I just need to speak to him. There's a telephone booth just at the end of the platform. I'll just go and see if I can reach him. Yes? Of course, dear. I can see you must be quite anxious. I'll make sure no one takes your seat while you're gone. And Dora spread herself a little more across the seat and placed her handbag at her side. Harriet strode quickly down the platform and into the small telephone booth where she dialed the number for home. Come on, Freddie, pick up. I've only got a couple of coins, she muttered. A clunk was heard at the end of the line, and Harriet quickly pushed her coins into the well-worn slot. Freddie, is that you? Well, of course it is. Who'd you think it would be? Harry? What's up? Shouldn't you be back home by now? You know I like a couple of pints before my shift starts. Yes, it's me. The train is delayed. I don't know when it's going to arrive. Could you look after Michael until I get back? Well, I don't know, love. I thought you'd be back by now. Those trousers of mine still need mending, you know. Oh, well, Mrs. Bentley next door will have him, I'm sure, if you really have to go. I'll sort out your trousers when I get back. You know I will. You should be back by now, Harry. This isn't like you. I know. It's the train. Oh, Freddie, please just beep, beep, beep. The pips went at the end of the line, and Harriet placed the receiver back in its cradle with a heavy thunk. Hoping desperately that Mrs. Bentley would be home, she trailed back to the bench where she could see Dora Barton talking to a man in a guard's uniform. So I said back then that the service wasn't acceptable, but it doesn't seem they've taken any notice. I'm sorry, madam. Like I said, there's a fallen tree across the line, and it's taking the fellas a while to shift it. A big one it is. Great big oak tree. Must have been the storms we had last week that weakened it or something. Came all the way down the banking, it did. The guard paused and looked at Harriet. Hello, miss. I was just telling your companion here about the tree that's blocking the Fauchester line. A tree? Oh no. How long is it going to take to clear? They don't know, interrupted Dora. They don't seem to be able to get their act together. I don't think I'm going to be able to keep my appointment now. It's going to be far too late. I'll let you ladies know if I hear anything else. The guard gave a brief smile and headed towards a group of frustrated-looking people further down the platform. Did you get everything sorted out at the office? asked Dora, budging back down the bench as Harriet sat down. The office? Oh, yes, that. Yes. Freddie is fine. He's got everything in hand. At least I hope he has. Harriet's voice trailed off. Oh, you don't sound too sure. Freddie's okay. Really, he is. I can trust him. Just sometimes, I need to check he's got everything under control. The two women sat quietly for a moment. The departure board continued to flick and update the details of all the trains except for theirs. Then, the bing-bong-bing of the tannoy. The 1410 Foschester train is delayed. We know that, muttered Dora. And work is currently taking place to remove the obstructing tree from the line. We now expect the next train departing from this station to Foschester to be at 17:30 hours. That's another hour and a half, wailed Harriet as she looked at her watch. It's really not good enough, tutted Dora. Honestly, what a way to spend a Tuesday afternoon. You know, in some respects, I think Tuesdays are far worse than Mondays. You know where you are with a Monday. You've got the whole week ahead of you, and you just get on with it. But Tuesday, it's as though you've managed to get Monday out of the way. But Friday still seems such a long way away. I suppose you won't make your accountant's appointment now? Harriet looked at the older woman, who was taking a lipstick from her bag and reapplying the red hue to her mouth. You're right. There's no sense in me waiting for a train now. How about I buy you a cup of tea in the cafe over there, as a thank you for keeping me company, and then I'll be on my way. Well, if you're sure, that would be nice. Better than sitting here for another hour. It's getting a bit chilly too, don't you think? The two ladies made their way across the station concourse to a small, bustling cafe, full with other people waiting for the delayed train. There's a table in the corner there, said Harriet. I'll grab it if you can get the tea. Yes? That's fine, dear. I'll do that. Harriet settled herself at the corner table, noting the various people who were filling the small cafe. Businessmen, people with shopping bags, women with small children, fractious at the delay. She thought of Michael and prayed that Freddie would find Mrs. Bentley at home. Her eyes shifted to the counter, where she could see Dora Barton fumbling in her bag. Well, I'm quite sure it was here, she was saying to the surly-looking woman behind the counter. Dora looked over at Harriet and raised her shoulders in confusion. Not wanting to make a scene, Harriet shuffled her way between the busy tables towards Dora. This lady here's got no money to pay for the tea, said the woman behind the counter, not seeming to care who could hear. And a few heads turned to see what the commotion was all about. I do have money, I do, protested Dora. But it's not here, she continued, looking in her bag, which, from where Harriet stood, appeared to contain only handkerchiefs and lipsticks. Maybe you do, said the woman behind the counter. But these teas won't pay for themselves. She looked at Harriet. Have you got any money to pay with? Well, I think so. Harriet knew she only had a £1 note in her purse that she needed for the week's groceries. Dora and the woman behind the counter both looked at her, and with a small sigh, Harriet took the note from her purse and handed it to the woman. "That'll be £1.04, said the woman, as she took change from the till and handed it to Harriet. "Enjoy your tea." Back at the table, Dora lowered her voice. "My purse must have been stolen. I had it earlier. I'm so very embarrassed. Goodness knows what that woman must have thought." "I'm sure it will turn up," said Harriet, anxiously glancing out of the window to see if anything was happening that might indicate a train would be here soon. "Perhaps you left it at home." "Home? Well, perhaps I did that. But I must thank you for paying, though I'm sure, with your job, you won't mind spending a few pennies on a cup of tea. It's so terribly humiliating to be found with no money. What must you think of me?" Dora paused for a moment, and then her demeanor changed, the earlier air of confidence almost evaporating before Harriet's eyes. "You see, they said it would always be okay. But when Wilfred died, Wilfred was my husband. Understand? Well, what can I say? He left me in rather a pickle, I'm afraid." "Oh, I'm sorry." Harriet sensed the change in the woman and softened her tone. "What happened to your husband?" "I really don't remember. It was so long ago. I was playing Titania in A Midsummer Night's Dream at the Palace Theater at the time. Everything is such a blur. I'm sure I remember the funeral. The lovely man who played Puck was there. He said something. I can just remember. If we shadows have offended, think but this, and all is mended. Yes, that's right. All is mended." "Dora, are you okay?" Harriet reached across the table and tentatively touched the older lady's arm. Immediately, Dora pulled her arm back in haste, as though something had bitten her. "Don't touch me. No, don't do that." Harriet retracted her hand quickly, reaching for her teacup to steady herself. She looked at Dora over its rim. "I hope you'll be all right, Dora, but I think I'll go and see what's happening with the train just now." "Yes, you do that. They might have the Pullman carriage ready for me now. See if you can hurry them along, dear." Dora opened her handbag and feverishly reapplied her lipstick again. "But I thought—" Harriet was distracted by a scene playing out on the concourse outside the cafe. A woman in a long brown mackintosh and a man in a white coat were standing talking to the guard. The woman was gesturing with her arms, pointing down the platform and then back towards the street. The man in the white coat stood quietly, and the guard looked up and down, scratching his head underneath his cap. His eyes traced across the station, and then did a double take and stopped at the cafe. He looked at Harriet, who was just getting out of her seat, and pointed in her direction. The woman ran across the station, the man in the white coat following her as she burst into the cafe. "Mother!" she called across the small table-filled room. The voices in the cafe fell to a hush, and everyone looked at the woman, and then in Harriet and Dora's direction. "Don't let them take me." Dora grabbed Harriet's arm. "Please." The woman pushed her way between the tables, and now stood trembling as she looked down at Dora, who had her hands over her head and was trying to push herself as far as possible into the corner. "Mother, please, we've been worried sick. Where have you been? Leave me alone. This lady here is looking after me. See, she bought me tea, and she runs an insurance broker's, so she is quite capable. I don't need you or your doctor friend over there." The woman in the brown Macintosh looked at Harriet, eyebrows raised and questions etched across her face. "The train was delayed, and your mother sat next to me. She's missed her appointment with the accountant in Fochester, I'm afraid," Harriet said, attempting to explain the situation. "Accountant? Fochester? Oh, what has she been saying?" The woman looked in despair at the man in the white coat, who was now standing behind her. "I think I should go." Harriet picked up her handbag. "I really need to make sure I get on the train. Freddie is going to go crazy, and poor Michael will wonder where I am." "You tell Freddie to do as you say," piped up Dora from the corner. "You're the boss. Don't have him telling you what to do." "I think we should get Mrs. Barton back to my surgery," said the man in the white coat calmly. "We can get her settled down there. Come on now, Mother." The woman touched Dora's shoulder. Dora shirked away. "Let's get you back to talk to nice Mr. Davidson here, and no running off this time." She looked at Harriet. "Would you believe it? We only left her for less than a minute. We've been looking for her for the last 2 hours." "Well, I'm glad you found her." Harriet moved to the other side of the woman. "Goodbye, Dora. It was nice to meet you." Dora looked up from the corner, dabbing her handkerchief at her mouth. "You tell that Freddie of yours," she said. "You tell him to mend his own trousers and to look after that little boy of yours properly." Harriet stared for a moment, unsure if she'd heard correctly, then hastened her goodbye and made her way towards the platform where the delayed 1410 to Fochester was pulling into the station. Later that evening, Harriet tucked Michael into his cot and placed a gentle good-night kiss on his forehead. She stood at the bedroom door and smiled, watching for a moment as her son fell into a blissful slumber. Downstairs, she took Freddie's torn trousers that he'd left strewn across the sofa and put them in a bag of scrap fabric that she kept in the cupboard under the stairs. She then made herself a cup of tea and settled down to read her favorite magazine. As Harriet West turned the pages of her magazine, 20 miles away, behind a locked bedroom door, Dora Barton lay in her small single bed, staring up at the ceiling and beyond, and Dora Barton smiled. The last phone call. "Mom, finally! I thought our weekly calls from the station were pre-scheduled. I was worried." "Hey, sweetie. Sorry about that. Things have been a bit chaotic up here. Solar radiation's been causing issues with communications. You usually call on Sunday. It's Wednesday. You know how space is. Unpredictable. The ionosphere is wreaking havoc on everything up here. It took me a while to get through with the available channels. Restricted, I guess. I hadn't heard about a radiation storm. Anyway, how's the research going? Can't complain. How's school? Weird. I've noticed a lot of strange stuff happening lately. For example, we were setting up the club telescopes in the park on Monday when some official showed up. He said he was with the Space Weather Center. Told Mr. Hayes they were expecting a massive solar flare and had to shut down all civilian solar observations. Said they didn't want any students getting blinded if it happened during observation. Your comms problem isn't related, is it? Could be. The SWC must have seen something. There might be. Wait. That's completely wrong. And Mr. Hayes knows it. Solar filters protect our eyes during normal observation. And even the big flares are not that bright at optical wavelengths. Plus, if there really was a huge, dangerous flare coming, they'd have issued a public warning. The whole thing makes no sense. Huh. Maybe the official was simplifying the explanation, or didn't fully understand. For our astronomy club? Come on, Mom. We're smarter than that. We're all AP students. Mr. Hayes was confused too. I don't think he bought it either. Sarah, why would they bother sending someone in person to a small astronomy club meetup in the park? Why didn't they just send an email warning to the school? Or just issue a general public notice? This guy showed up flashing credentials, telling us to pack it in immediately. It makes no sense. I don't know. Maybe they weren't sure you'd get it in time. And Dad? Mom, I'm worried about him. He barely sleeps. I hear him pacing at night. Yesterday morning, I found him asleep at the kitchen table, still in his work clothes. Well, you know your dad. He's just under a lot of pressure, more than usual lately, always taking his work too seriously. So, how's that physics project you were telling me about? It's going good, Mom. I'll make an A, like always. But Dad, he let it slip. They're updating deep space tracking systems. Yeah, I heard that too. He never was good at keeping secrets. All of them? At once? On emergency status? Who told you it was emergency status? No one. I overheard him on the phone. You shouldn't eavesdrop. I just want to know what's going on. Just tell me. I'm doing my best, sweetie. But you're not telling me everything. Look, honey, you know I can't always tell you everything. So, let's talk about your birthday coming up. 17. Wow. I'm sorry I won't be there. I hear Aunt Paula and your dad have something special planned. Forget my birthday. Something's wrong. The NASA website's been down for days. Maintenance, they say. These things happen. They're probably just doing upgrades or fixing a server issue. During the same week that all the major observatories stopped updating their websites, Sarah, and why did Aunt Paula buy extra supplies? What do you mean? I dropped by after school yesterday. She was carrying in boxes of food for her storm shelter, just in case, she said. She also mentioned that you called her yesterday. I've been trying to reach you for the last 3 days. You found time to call her, but didn't call me. Keep Aunt Paula's phone number handy. It's always nice to have someone to depend on, just in case. Mom, stop. Something's happening. Just tell me. Nothing's happening. We're just conducting routine research. Then explain the launches. You know, I track this stuff for the astronomy club. What? 5 days ago. China, Russia, and NASA all launched within hours of each other. No warnings, no announcements. All classified payloads at the same time. Honey, it's likely just coincidence. Sometimes agencies coordinate for unrelated reasons. You know, NASA likes to cooperate with other agencies. I might have believed that, but amateur astronomers tracked 2 of the rockets, posted the trajectory data online. Then their data disappeared. And now those same astronomers aren't responding to anyone. They've gone dark. You really need to stop reading conspiracy theories online. These aren't theories. I've seen the videos from people who live near the launch sites. Those have been taken down, too. I checked the trajectories myself. They're all going to the ISS, aren't they? And why did the ISS change orbit? Sarah, NASA's. It's complicated. Just some specialized equipment and for our research. Okay? The Russians are sending up new cosmonauts. The ISS is just performing a standard maneuver, Sarah. Space debris is unpredictable. You know how it is. Nothing you need to worry about. Really? China finally claimed it was a weather satellite launch? Why did Russia lie in their announcement today? They said it was engine testing. And why hasn't NASA said something? These things are complicated. No one launches secret missions in perfect sync by accident, Mom. Remember when you taught me about Occam's razor? Sarah and the astronomy forums are going crazy about something near Jupiter. But the posts keep disappearing. Internet hoaxes. Don't believe everything you read online. No? No, it's not. Dad got a call late last night. It woke me up. I got up and saw him make several calls. He looked rattled. Then he told me this morning that he needs to leave for a few days. For work. So, Mom, I couldn't help but overhear Dad's side of the call. He said something about a spacecraft and a collision course. Mom? Sarah, it's not what you think. These conversations are never straightforward. Your dad deals with classified projects all the time. You should get some sleep, honey. It's late there. He's never acted like this. What's on a collision course? Sarah, please, I can't talk about this right now. All those launches, the spacecraft, the deleted information. It's too much to be a coincidence. They're hiding something, Mom. And you know, Sarah, it's just, stop, okay? You're not... Mom, are you preparing for something? It's not just research, is it? I can't have this conversation. The Chinese, the Russians, NASA, the ISS, you're all working together. In secret. Sarah, quit it. Now. You're not studying anything. You're trying to stop something. Sarah, I can't do this. I have to go. How big is it? How big? What? The asteroid. That's what it is, isn't it? That's why all the telescopes are shut down. Why everything's classified. You don't want people to panic. Mom, you always were too smart for your own good. How bad? I have to go. Mom, please, don't tell anyone about this call. What? I mean it. It's important. Promise me. I promise. I love you, Sarah. More than anything. Always remember that. Okay? No matter what. Mom, are you going to be on that spacecraft? Mom, please tell me you're not. Be strong, Sarah. Like I know you can. Remember how much I love you. And know that I'm doing everything I can to come back to you. And stay close to Aunt Paula. Just in case. Mom, just be careful and come home soon. Mom, this call has been terminated. I love you too. Stay safe. The suicide shop. The suicide shop. When I first saw Kevin Trask, he was almost naked. Perhaps fully naked in my mind's eye. But he was wearing the skimpiest of bathing suits as he got out of his pool, stretched and toweled himself in the noonday sun. He could have modeled for any underwear ad. He was that chiseled, with long, angular lines from head to toe. I was both disappointed and relieved when he put on a purple silk robe. How appropriate, I thought, for the king of his world. He had yet to speak, despite acknowledging my presence with a brief nod. He was dead wrong if he intended for me to feel cowed by his superiority. I hated what he did for a living. Inside or outside? He asked as he came closer to me. I must have looked confused, or perhaps still caught in the daze of watching him get out of the pool. The interview? Oh, okay, I stammered, instantly regretting how I must have sounded to him, but then quickly recovered. Inside, I said. Too much sun out here, and I did not bring sunscreen. Inside, I groaned, thinking I could not sound any more stupid and thrown off by his looks, like any schoolgirl, instead of a crack reporter for the Daily Interview, a serious national magazine, a Pulitzer Prize finalist, for God's sake. Jeannie Hawk, crack reporter, bowled over by a Chippendale. Follow me. He turned and walked away from the house, and then through a hidden door in the outbuilding next to the pool. I like to use this room, out of earshot of the staff. NDAs can only cover so much. I don't want to be overheard spilling state secrets, he said with a smile. The interview will take about an hour, I said. He sat down and pressed a button on the side of his chair. The wall on the right side rolled away to reveal floor-to-ceiling window panes, revealing a view of the valley and city below. Nice view, I said. Fit for the Lord of all he surveys. He chuckled. I like it. Okay then, Genie Hawk, ask away. He got up and went to the wet bar. Drink? Just water. Kevin Trask rarely did interviews, and I wanted to take full advantage of his time. Indeed, other than a few transitory answers at press conferences, he had never given a full interview. I placed my recorder and notebook on the coffee table before me, then dug into my purse for a pen. He watched me as I set up the tools of the trade. Why both? He asked. Why both pen and paper and recorder? I always like backup, I said. I never did trust technology. He shrugged. I do. I studied him, taking in the sculptured beauty of his face, the one plastered all over the country on magazines, billboards, and buses. He took you into his eyes, forgiving all, a confessor and father, brother, even lover, all at once, leaving you wanting to do nothing but fall into those eyes and let it all go, listening to his voice as he told you to come find the peace you sought, the release you need, the end you had to have. And here I was, sitting before the real person behind those ads. I shook myself back to the task at hand. This is Genie Hawk, date June 1st, 2035. So, Mr. Trask, he stopped me with a hand. Call me Kevin, he said, inviting me to continue. So Kevin, I stressed the word. How did it all start? Where did you get the idea for the suicide shop? People have always wanted to kill themselves, Jeannie. I made a way for them to do that and live should they choose, and also to die should they choose that. It turns out that being able to do that all in one place made for an attractive business. My turn to hold up a hand. Kevin, if I had wanted to listen to one of the suicide shop ads, I could have simply turned on the television. Every idea starts somewhere. I want to know your start. What drove you at the beginning and made you create all this? Trask watched me interminably, emotions playing deep in his green eyes. Then he seemed to come to a conclusion. I walked into the ocean to die, and I did not die. He paused a long second, and then began again. I walked into the ocean to die, to let the waves wash over me and take me away. I thought the pills I had taken with the booze I had drunk would kick in and block any pain. I had been depressed for a long time and wanted it to end. I picked a spot where, when I sat down, the water came up to my neck. Then I waited. Oddly, I did not think about much. I just sat and waited. Perhaps it was the booze and the drugs. I don't know. But what was ahead of me was just a blank. Nothing that held any terror. I fell asleep for what I thought would be the last time. The water would take me, and I would be at peace. When I woke, the first light of dawn glimmered on the horizon. I was now sitting on wet sand, naked, the water's edge now 5 feet behind me. The tide had gone out, not in, and now I was sober and exposed and very, very naked. I raced to my clothes, still piled on the sand. I pulled the shorts on and then slipped back into my hotel room. No one saw me on the beach at that time of the morning. I would have made quite a sight to the old couples who strolled the early morning hours on the sand, hunting for shells and health. You cannot imagine how foolish I felt, both lucky and a total failure simultaneously. The odd thing was that I no longer wished to die. My depression was gone, lifted from me like a weight that held me down. I felt light and released and did not fear the future. He stopped, not looking at me, lost in thoughts of long ago. I asked, "If you did not want to die anymore, then why did you start a company that provides suicide as a service?" He returned to the present, looked at me with those eyes that poured deep into my soul, and smiled. "Have you ever wanted to kill yourself, Jeannie?" "Of course not," I said, perhaps a bit too briskly. "I don't believe you. Most people want to, at least once at some point in their lives, only to be stopped by circumstance or fear. Morality offers only partial protection. When you do it, it seems like a good idea at the time." I never forgot that. I had truly wanted to die. I had no reservations, and yet I did not die. And in that not dying, my life was given back to me. I went to work in various businesses, creating a living for myself and doing very well. I watched as society's attitude toward suicide changed, and a new movement started. My life, my body movement swept the country, sometimes not easily, but it continued to grow. People had become tired of being told what to do, no matter whether it meant being told what to do to live or being told what to do to die. They looked at it like a new war of independence, and they won. Congress eventually passed the My Life, My Body Act, making suicide legal. I helped, worked for the movement, and gave my money and time. I had a plan that I had ready for the time that came. I saw a need to provide people with a way to explore the suicide scenario safely, to see if that was indeed what they wanted, or if, like me, they would find that it was just a good idea at the time. So, I opened my first suicide shop. There, you could try the various ways to do yourself in. I expected that many people would regret the act if saved from it, just as I had been. I arranged multiple ways to try. A menu, so to speak, death à la carte, all safe unless you flipped off the safety switch. Then, it became permanent, but it was rarely used. Most preferred the safe try. The first shop was so successful that I franchised it, and it became the largest chain of any company in the country, and over the years, in the world. Would you like to see the inside of the shop? Absolutely. I followed him out of the house, down to a parking area with a large blue Rolls-Royce and a red Lamborghini. The chauffeur was waiting by the Rolls, and I expected him to get in that one, but he crossed the parking lot floor and held the door of the Lamborghini open for me. I like to drive. Do you feel you are doing all this for the money? I asked when we were driving. He just looked straight ahead, weaving in and out of the traffic, expertly guiding the car. I thought I saw a small curl in the corner of his lips, just the beginning of a smile. That's an old gambit, not very inventive, and surely you can come up with better. I provide a service. Others could do it as well, but I think my way gives people a chance to reconsider, to change their minds, and not complete the task if they are not truly committed. True, I said. What about those who come back repeatedly? Are they not adrenaline death junkies, getting ever closer to the deed to keep getting high? This time, he did not smile. Off the record? Okay, I answered. I have worried about that. At first, it was just a blip on the data screens, but at least there was a distinct uptick in the repeat visits. There may be a sexual adrenaline component to it. How often have you done it? I asked. Many, many times. I sensed that there was more he wanted to say, but he just added, "It does make the bottom line look good. Do you have much security?" Oddly, not much. But we must guard the cars. We never know which trip could be their last. I let them park on site. Public lots complained about the abandoned vehicles. He parked the car, and we got out. We went to a private elevator, then up 4 floors, and then out to a large room. A hallway led out from it in 4 different directions, each lined by large glass doors on either side. He waved a languid arm to either side, and I watched pride form on his lips in a slow smile. Each room is a different experience, he said. Each room will be tuned to an individual's desires, just like tuning your radio dial to the deadly channel of death. This one, he said, pointing to the room to his right, is the overdose room, complete with all the world's favorite drugs, packaged in pill or IV form. If you want to go right to the edge and be pulled back, you must leave the safety switch in the safe position, and an aide will administer the antidote. Tell me of the other rooms. He moved on, waving his hand to either side, pointing out rooms for gunshots, cutting your wrists, throwing yourself out of a building or a cliff, car wrecks, death. By misadventure, even death by cop. There were many more rooms. Some take more preparation, mixing virtual and real reality in ways that can keep you alive unless you've turned off the safety switch. They are proprietary trade secrets that I can't tell you. We are quite adaptable. I felt the hair rising on my neck as he said this, realizing what appetites were being fulfilled here. I made a few notes, and my mind was racing. It's a cultural phenomenon. People use suicide as entertainment. I looked up at him and saw great weariness in his eyes, more than I would have expected. He was not a young man, but looked older than he should have when he did not smile. I suspected that he was unhappy with his creation. "Let's have a cup of coffee," he said. He led me down the hallway around the corner. There is a cafeteria coffee shop for people needing a timeout or a family that comes with them. Usually, if they bring family, they don't take the final plunge. Most of the time, they do that alone. He sat me down at the table and brought us each a cup of coffee. Mine was exactly what I wanted. Heavy duty, with lots of sugar. I wondered if he had been researching me. "Off the record," he said, watching me put my book away and ensure the recorder was powered off. The rest of our discussion should be off the record, as it might be bad for business. Going back to our previous discussion, people often ask why the person kills themselves. As I told you, I've always said that it is because it seems like a good idea at the time. The premise of my business was to have a way to explore that and find out if that's what you really wanted to do. Once the laws were changed and suicide became legal and a recognized right, it took on a life of its own. As you know, I have thousands of suicide shop franchises worldwide and gather data on the people who do it themselves. At first, it was a small number, but most people seemed to be looking for experience without true motivation. I've noticed, though, that the more you try, the more you return. And the more they return, the closer they get to the end. I believe you're right. Those people have developed an addiction. What is not known is that more people have died in the last 3 years of my shops than in all the wars the world over in those 3 years. To quote that old line, I have become death. He chuckled mercilessly. Beware of unintended consequences. "Can you stop it?" I said. He looked at me and smiled, but the smile seemed to have the weight of the world in it, preventing it from ever becoming full. "Turn your recorder back on. Let's finish the tour. You know I've never given an interview like this before. You may win a Pulitzer." We went to the last room. Inside the center of the room was a guillotine, one of my new additions. This device is one of the most efficient ways to kill ever invented. It's foolproof with the proper machine, quick in its finality, and I hope it is painless. Although you can't ask the subject after it's done. Of course, it has a safety switch. And as with all the rooms, I can measure all the physiologic signs right up to the actual death moment. This room has not had a customer yet. I would expect it to be the same. The sensors review the data and come up with what I call the fear acceptance ratio. The closer to 0 that ratio gets, the more certain it becomes that the person will go through with it and kill themselves. I have placed a monitor in each room that the customer cannot see, but my technicians can. That's it, there on the far wall. If my technicians see the number getting close to 0, they know to be ready to call in the cleanup crew. That's a detail that has never been revealed. Be sure you write that down. The safety switch is there by the right hand. In order to have the machine complete the task, you have to push it all the way to the right, and a green light will come on, and the computer will ask you if you are sure. If you say yes, the blade drops. He looked at me and asked, "Are you getting everything?" I nodded. "Stay here then, and watch." Then he slipped inside the room. I was unsure, but I thought I had heard him lock it. I saw him lay down on the guillotine and put the bracket over his neck, and heard it click into place. I heard his voice tell me the sensors were built into the machine. I looked at the monitor on the far wall and saw a flashing number that started at 7 and then crept quickly to 0. "Are you getting all that?" I heard him say. "Yes," I said, feeling a tremor of doom start to shake me. I wanted him out of that room. I saw him grasp the safety switch. His hand slowly pushed it towards the right. "Remember everything I said," I heard him say, as I tried to force my way through the door, but realized it was useless. Through the glass, I saw the safety switch turn green and heard the computer's voice asking if he was sure. Holding what I felt was my last breath, I heard him say, "Yes." "No, don't!" I screamed. "No, don't!" The blade dropped. The last thing I saw as my scream faded was his head rolling on the floor, stopping next to the glass, his dead green eyes on mine. I was still crying. "No, don't." The levee. This is bullshit. It doesn't take 2 of us to guard this levee. Nothing's going to happen, especially not this time of night in the pouring rain. Don't know why we have to stand outside rather than sit in the cab. Could see just as bad from in than out. You just drove in today. Go ahead and get some sleep in the deuce. You look like shit. You look like shit. Nah. Remember, I'm kinda local. I got to sleep in my old bed at my mom's place last night. Go. Okay. Thanks, man. Yeah, whatever. And stop. Who's there? This levee is under the supervision of the National Guard. Turn around and return the way you came. Sorry, young man, but we can't do that. We don't want trouble, but we gotta do this. It's the only way. Mr. Hicks. What's your tag there, say? Adams? Which one of the Adams boys are you? Rick. Sir, I'm Rick. Who's with you? Just me and my dad, son. Just me and him. Why don't you put that gun down? Old Pops is with you? What are you two doing here? Let's just put that gun down, son. We'll explain. I can't do that, sir. especially not with you holding that shotgun. You two need to stop bickering like old hens before I drop this box. That wouldn't be good for any of us. What's in the box? Dynamite. Dynamite! What the hell, Pops? Why are you bringing dynamite out here? Mr. Hicks? It's the only way, Ricky. The only way we don't lose everything. I don't understand. We gotta blow the levee before we lose everything. Our farm is set to get flooded out completely. I can't let you do that. I'm really sorry about the farm, but I can't let you do that. I've got orders to shoot, if necessary. We have to protect this levee. You wouldn't shoot me, would you, Ricky? After I coached you all those years in Little League and Pee Wee, I'm the one who coached the high school to state the year you won that fancy scholarship and hightailed it out of town. Come on now, let us through. No, I'm sorry. But you're talking about saving 1 or 2 farms. On the other side of this levee, there are over 50 homes with young families, with little kids asleep in their beds. Bullpucky boy, we heard the evacuation orders for the whole area on the radio. Ain't nobody there. They were even going to evacuate the old folks' home. This one keeps trying to put me in. We waited 2 days. Everybody should be gone. We ain't no murderers. That's exactly what you're about to be. If you've been listening, you know that evacuation didn't happen. My grandmother's down there right now. And all those families. What Amy's do you mean down didn't happen there? What? You said you've been listening to the radio. Well, power went out a bit after the evacuation orders were first announced. What do you mean it didn't happen? The levee up toward Summitburg on the other branch failed. It took out the island bridge. They can't evacuate. You said aim. Your gran is down at the old folks' home. Why didn't your ma bring her home? She should be home. Kara never did like your gran much. Figures she left her there. Your father is rolling in his grave. Hey, we tried Pops. She refused to leave. She insisted she can still help. Stubborn as a mule. That's your gran. Help with what, for God's sake? Just before the bridge went down, the med center went under. They saw that coming and had already evacuated everyone. Doc and a couple of nurses threw everything they could in the ambulance and set up in the nursing home. It's now the only medical facility in 3 counties. The Emergency Services Center went under, too. Grandma's running triage and dispatch from the night nurse station. Ha. Yep. That's definitely something she could do in her sleep. She was a Spitfire Army nurse, then spent probably 30 years running that dispatch before retiring. Well, holy. But our farm? Bill, hush. Private. Have your engineer types checked out this levee? Is it going to hold if it keeps raining like this? They're not sure. There's some work supposed to happen tomorrow if this rain lets up a bit, but it's mostly wait and see. You got a radio, private? One I can reach your gran on? I'm supposed to keep it on the guard channel. Just for a minute. No one will know it was your radio, and not a personal one. Please. Okay. Here, Amy Adams. You there, sweetheart? It's Hank. Hank Hicks. You get off this emergency channel. This is for business. Just one quick ask, hun. Can you get word out for anyone willing to come by my place and drive the cows from the dairy barn across the road into the hills? I'm not there, and it's going to flood in real quick. My grandson, Mike, worked for you last summer. He's right here. I'll send him and anyone he thinks can help. Thank you, sweetheart. I gotta go. Dad, what was that about? We can be back in plenty of time to drive the cows out ourselves. If it even comes to that. Oh, it's come to that. Come on, Bill. We've got a levee to blow up. What do you mean, Pops? No, Dad. No. We'll lose everything. More than everything. What are you guys talking about? I'm talking about taking some of the pressure off this here levee to make sure your gran and all those folks stay safe. What are you talking about? He's talking about blowing the private levee in our back pasture. Flash flooding the whole farm. Darn right I am. Let's go. No! We can deal with some flooding, but that would wipe out everything. Son, it is still my farm, not yours. We'll lose crops. We'll lose equipment. We might well lose buildings too. But the land ain't going nowhere. And with the cows up in the hills, there'll still be a herd. You can use all the different property and crop and equipment insurance money to rebuild with all the fancy modern thingamabobs you keep going on about. Insurance. Dad, why the hell were we up here meaning to blow up this levee if we have insurance? I ain't never made an insurance claim, and I wasn't about to start if I could help it. Wait, what do you mean I can use the money? You mean we, right? Nope. I'm thinking I'll move myself into that old folks' home with his pretty grandma and leave you to it. Let's go blow a levee. So today's story has come to an end. Or perhaps it never really ended. There are mysteries still there, questions still unanswered, and sometimes things that seem to only exist in stories can creep into reality in unexpected ways. Are you sure that when you turn off the sound, everything around you will still be normal as before? Or is there something watching you? Either way, always remember that these are just stories, or at least we want to believe that they are. If you like moments of suspense, tension, and breathlessness, don't forget to follow me so you don't miss the next stories. And next time, when you come back, make sure you are ready, because what awaits you may be even scarier than you thought. See you again if you still have the courage to continue listening.